Let me say one thing about the founding of this nation. This nation does not exist separate from the grace of God, and it will not continue to exist separate from the grace of God. We need God's mercy. The Revolutionary War was fought by men. Now, and if we don't give them honor, you know, that is a lack of integrity and honor on our part. If we don't honor the blood that was shed, so that this nation could be free, and we've all enjoyed that. And we're getting to the point now that freedom is being used as an occasion to sin. Wickedness is really showing its evil head. The Second Amendment, though, let's continue to talk about that and how that relates to the freedoms we have, and not forgetting the blood that was shed, especially in that Revolutionary War, where people gave up their lives, willingly gave up their lives. And let's look at, you know, these kids now out marching, wanting everyone to give up their guns so they'll be safe. Now look at that contrast, though. They're willing to give up their freedoms in order to feel safe. Remember the old saying back in the 50s and 60s, better red than dead, where, you know, some were afraid of atomic war from the communists. So they said, well, let's just give in to them because we don't want to be hurt. We've always had that crowd that they'd give up their freedom to be safe, and put that against the soldier who gives up their life for freedom. Now, the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791. That was just shortly after the conclusion of the Revolutionary War. And the weapon, by far, that was used, military and the citizens, the militia, the citizen army, was a smoothbore musket, which means it wasn't rifled. Now, there was rifled weapons, and I'm sure there was a lot of them. I don't have any exact figures and don't want to try to get into that. But the point is, the weapons that the militia brought were not greatly different than what the Army had at that time. So at the time of the ratification of the Second Amendment, the weapons were fairly equal. The main difference in a smoothbore musket is the bullet will not travel as straight. And it may not travel as far. I'm not really sure about that, but because the spiral will certainly make it travel straighter. And the way they fought at close distances, I don't know how much that made a difference. A rifle was certainly a sniper weapon. But at these close distances and how they grouped, I don't know if it made a whole lot of difference what they were shooting at each other with. But at any rate, they were pretty much equal. But now we have these decisions. We have the 2008 decision, where Anthony Scalia wrote the what do you call it? Well, they voted to hold that what the District of Columbia did was not right. And the case basically was the District of Columbia versus Heller. And some of the things we find from that 2008 Supreme Court decision was that no, you do not have to belong to a state militia to have your Second Amendment rights protected. But a militia is part of the Second Amendment. And it is, they defined it as we already know it to be. It is citizens who have weapons who are available if they're needed. But you're not part of anything unless you are needing and willing to fight. But here's some troubling things. They cite back a decision of United States versus Miller, which basically concluded that you could be limited in the type of weapon you had. And that would be to the type of weapon that was commonly in use at the time. Okay, you got that? Commonly in use at the time. But they were okay with banning an M16, which is a military weapon. So it's not in the marketplace. It can't be manufactured, can't be sold. It cannot become a weapon commonly in use. Now, we do have the AR-15, which is a type of that, the armor light rifle. But we have that, and that certainly is commonly in use today. But we don't have the military weapon, and they feel comfortable in banning that because they say it's not a weapon commonly in use. And again, if it's banned, it cannot become a weapon commonly in use. And that's why I want to refer back to the original Revolutionary War. They weren't greatly different. It wasn't greatly different. Now, could you imagine that when the Second Amendment was written and sent out for ratification, that they would have thought that their militias should be handicapped? That as the Army grew in weaponry, that the militia should always be handicapped? Now, why would they think that? What could possibly be the purpose? You know, why didn't they then just ban rifled weapons to civilians? and say, well, right now, mostly what you have is a musket anyway, so you can't have a rifled weapon because that's going to be a military weapon. You see, this is nonsense. This argument, it does not hold water. The argument just does not hold water. We need, as citizens, the best weapons available. A military weapon is the type of weapon that we need. Now, we aren't talking about arms. We're not talking about cannons and tanks and such as that. And that's what the Second Amendment was about, arms, something you could carry. And that's clearly the same meaning as it always was. But a military weapon is a type of weapon that should be considered commonly in use. Because for the purpose of militia, that's what you'd have to have. You'd have to have the best weapon. You can't be out there with a .22 rifle. You know, and I can't even fathom that the founders would have thought that the militia should be separated from the type of weapons the military has just because they're citizens. It just doesn't make sense.